What's good, y'all? Shagama Kyle. Welcome back to my channel. Make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're new, make sure you subscribe. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers, and every subscriber helps. Over here on this channel, we talk about the NBA kind of sort of daily. So if you enjoy NBA as much as I do, please subscribe. And today we're going to be talking about what happened last night with the Pelicans and the Suns game, and really mostly about Brandon Ingram and just where I think the series goes from here. So if you don't know, last night Brandon Ingram, he scored 37 points. He had 11 rebounds, 9 assists. Really just a Herculean effort to kind of drag the Pelicans to a win in Phoenix. And this is a really big win because the way the first game looked, it looked like they had the recipe for Brandon Ingram. They put a lot of size and length on him. They put McCall on him. Jay Crowder guarded him some, and they just really, were able to bother him and get him, out of sorts. And I think they held him to 18 or like 37% shooting, and they were able to kind of hold CJ off a little bit, but CJ went crazy towards the end. I think he finished with like 25, but really they just didn't have an answer to stop Chris Paul, and it didn't have an answer to really stop, Devin Booker. And the thing that changed this game is obviously Devin Booker is out with a hamstring injury, but before he went out with that, he had 31 points, and he really torched the New Orleans Pelicans. And I think if he continued to play, although Brandon Ingram was playing really well, I do think that the Suns would have won this game. But now that we have, confirmed reports that Devin Booker is going to be out for games 3 and 4. This makes the series really interesting because Devin Booker, personally, I think he's the Suns' best player. You can argue that it's Chris Paul, but there's no question that he's the Suns' best scorer, best scorer off the dribble, best scorer off the catch, just best point per game producer. And without him, the series becomes interesting because without that added punch of Devin Booker scoring, I still do think the Suns are a better team because they're better defensively, they're better, playmaking wise, and they're just, what is it called? They're better, more well coached, and just, things like that. And it's going to be interesting to see because they do have Brandon Ingram, they do have CJ McCollum, they do have a good band of, defenders. They have Herb Jones, they have Larry Nance Jr., even Jackson Hayes is coming along on defense. Brandon Ingram has had good moments on defense. But overall, I do think that the Suns are still better. But I think that the games will be a lot closer. And when I say they're going to be closer, I mean they're going to be within, reach and distance and within punching distance for the New Orleans Pelicans to really have a game like they did last night. Last night, they responded so well to every time the Suns would make a three, every time the Suns would score late in the game. The Pelicans just, kept the composure, and they just were able to score. And I feel like without Devin Booker there, because Devin Booker is even more pressure on your defense, and Devin Booker is a pretty solid passer, so he can get the defense out of source and just really stretch you thin. But I feel like without Devin Booker, you have to replace him with somebody like, Cameron Payne. And Cameron Payne is a good player, but, Chris Paul, Cameron Payne, probably Jay Crowder, Mikal Bridges, DeAndre Ayton, I think that that's a more manageable lineup defensively for the New Orleans Pelicans because without Devin Booker, obviously the offense is going to go down. Obviously, they're not going to get, that scoring point from anybody else. But I can see DeAndre Ayton taking up a lot of, Booker's shot attempts because DeAndre Ayton, when he's, really stuck to it, when he's been aggressive, he's been pretty good this season. And we really saw that when Chris Paul was out and he was getting a bunch of shots, he was really, really good. And I don't think Jonas Valanciunas, Jonas Valanciunas is a fine defender, but I don't think Jonas Valanciunas is going to be the answer to, really shut down Ayton. So really, you want to see Ayton get more involved. Obviously, Chris Paul is a wizard with the basketball. He really does a lot of playmaking. But we even saw in game 1, 30 points, 10 assists. So I do think that Chris Paul can definitely score more. He can, nobody can stop him getting to a spots in the mid-range. But really, I just think that instead of it being like a sweep or like 5 games, I can see this game going 7 if things go really, really right for the New Orleans Pelicans because injuries are no joke, and especially hamstring injuries. So even if he was to miss games 3 and 4, and even if, they win both of those games, he's going to come back. Who's to say that his hamstring is, fully healthy? Because, in the middle of a playoff run, you want your players to have, continuity. You want your players to just play, you want your players to play. So they're not going to hold them out, for as long as they really want to. And hamstring injuries are really fickle. We see what's happening with, James Harden this season and just any hamstring injury in the past. It really affects the way you move for the rest of the playoffs. So this kind of concerns me as a whole for the Suns playoff run because Devin Booker is, amazing scorer. And although his game is not really predicated on like a lot of athleticism, he does move a lot without the ball, and he does have to move a lot with the ball in his hand. So you don't want to see any of that speed be zapped because of a hamstring injury. So personally, I think this is probably going to go 6 games, maybe 7. But I do think that the Suns can win without him. I'm just, from a full-on perspective of the Suns championship run overall, I think this present a lot of problems. But let's talk about Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram last night, he's been doing what he's been doing the entire season, all-star type things. And, Brandon Ingram is one of the best mid-range shooters in the NBA. He can get to his spot, anytime he wants. And they had, one of the best defenders in the NBA on him today. And they had one of the best defenders in the NBA on him last night. Mikal Bridges, top 3 defensive player of the year guy. And he just kind of, put his shoulder into Mikal Bridges, got to the elbow area, got to like 15 feet away from the rim, and just rose up. And if you switch a smaller play onto Ingram, he's going to shoot right over him. They kind of try to switch Chris Paul onto him a couple times. And the thing about Brandon Ingram is that even if you stifle him at the mid-range, because you do have to bring some help for a guy like that, although he's not like a super heavy driver like that, you do still need to bring help. Even if you stifle him in the mid-range, his passing has gotten to the level where he can make those reads, and he can make those reads really fast. And, you see with the 9 assists, even though his shot was on, he still had no problem, distributing the basketball, kicking it to, making skip passes to the weak side corner. He had no problem just finding guys very, very fast. And I think that's going to be huge for this series. If he can just keep, a really, really high level of scoring, I give the Pelicans a shot because, like I said, the game's going to be closer now without Devin Booker. So I do think that the series is more interesting, but I do want Devin Booker to, come back from injury really well. And I hope he's healthy for the rest of the year, but it's not looking so good for it because, hamstring injuries are so fickle. But yeah, man, Brandon Ingram, he's one of my favorite players. I really love Brandon Ingram. TJ McCollum obviously does great things. I think he had like 23 last night. He also had 9 assists. So this series is really interesting. But Brandon Ingram is really him. Brandon Ingram, he showed everybody last night. He's the scorer we thought he was. But I didn't think that, coming up watching Brandon Ingram, I didn't think he would ever get to this level of passing. I thought he was just a scorer. And, the way that he was able to pick apart the Suns last night was really masterful. And I hope we get to see more of that for, the rest of the playoffs or the rest of this series. I don't know what's going to happen. But if you see this video, thank you. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one.